So now, if we look at the Zohar Kadosh calls matzah that we're going to eat B'ezrat Hashem on Pesach, lechem ha'emunah, the bread of faith. The bread of faith. Why? Because Am Yisrael showed a lot of faith in Hashem, a lot of emunah in Hashem, that He's the one that's running the world, and that He's going to take care of them, and a lot of faith in Hashem that they just simply left Egypt, as miserable as it was. At least they knew where they're going to be the next day. But there they went into the desert, which people that went into the desert usually didn't come back. They had faith in Hashem, and trusting Him, and going into the desert, and to this day, Kadosh Baruch Hu is rewarding Am Yisrael for having faith in Him, and following Him into the desert. So, the matzah, the Zohar calls it lechem emunah, the bread of faith. Now, Rav Tzion Abba Shaul, alav shalom, he was the chavruta, and also Gdol Ador of the previous generation, the chavruta of Rav Ovadia. From childhood, they used to learn Torah together on the way to yeshiva every single day, where they didn't have enough money for both of them to be on the bus, so they both would take the bus on the way to yeshiva, but on the way home, they would both walk. Instead of one walk both ways and one be on a bus both ways, they were so close, they made sure that they go on a bus together on the way there, and walk home a long way together, and learn Torah the whole time, and remember the entire Gemara by heart. And Rav Tzion Abba Shaul says we both remember the entire Gemara by heart and what we learned, and the page that we looked at right before we left. Only difference is that Rav Ovadia also remembered the name specifically. That's it. But you see these giants, these Torah giants. Now, Rav Tzion Abba Shaul had an extraordinary chidush. A chidush that, if you put it into perspective, is extremely applicable to the times we are in now. Why? He says, this lechem emunah, this bread of faith, it's fanatic. This matzah is a fanatic. It's not like meat. Matzah is much more fanatic than meat. What does that mean? Meat, chicken, poultry, there are different levels of kashrut. There's different levels of kashrut. Meaning that sometimes there's a behemah, there's an animal, and there is a clear, this is halak, this is good, whatever, it's kashrut, best kashrut, right? That's what we'd all hope for. In reality, it doesn't really work that way. Why? You open up the animal, sometimes there's something that kind of looks like a hole in a lung. If it's a hole, tarif. If it's not a hole, it's allowed. So you have to bring a chacham. So sometimes you have certain questions about an animal. If kashrut, is it kasher, is it tarif? And there's different levels. It's definitely not 100%, it's definitely not this, it's definitely... So there's different levels. He says with matzah, this lechem emunah, it's not like that. He says matzah, Rav Tzion Abba Shaul says, matzah is fanatic, it's kitzoni. It's either 100% meudar, highest level of kashrut, or 100% chametz. Again, the matzah that you're all about to eat in Pesach is either 100% meudar, the best kashrut, the best of the best, or it's 100% chametz. Meaning that when you're going to bite that matzah, you better make sure you've done every check you possibly could of where'd you get this matzah. You didn't just buy something because it was sold in a dollar store. You bought it because it has kashrut, reliable, you know what you're doing, they know what they're doing. You're relying on somebody, not just yourself and the price and what fits your budget. Why? Because that matzah, if it's not 100% meudar, it's chametz. And chametz, Rabotai, is karet. Karet. So here we see, Rabotai, something that gives us a little bit more of a perspective of where Yirat Shamayim is most applicable. Because there are certain things that you can find a leniency, you can find a different psak, you can find this, you can find that, but there are certain things you can't find nothing. It's black or white. It's kasher or it's chametz. One of those things is matzah. But another one of those is emunah. Either you have emunah or you don't have emunah. Now, of course, there's levels of emunah. There's levels of emunah. But where does this emunah come from? The emunah, Rabotai Karim, comes from Yirat Shamayim. How do we know that? How do we know that emunah begins with Yirat Shamayim, begins with fear of the Almighty? We have a pasuk in the Torah. Torah Kedusha tells us in Parashat V'Shalach, in chapter 14, verse number 31, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us a roadmap of how to acquire emunah. וירא ישראל את היד הגדולה אשר עשה אדוני במצרים, ויראו העם את אדוני, ויאמינו באדוני ובמשה עבדו. Israel saw the great hand that Hashem inflicted upon Egypt, and the people revered Hashem, and they had emunah in Hashem and in Moshe his servant. Here the Torah tells us that to acquire emunah is a multi-step process. You cannot just go from zero to having emunah in Hashem. Why? Because first you have to know that Hashem exists, and He is the one that's running the world. Just like Am Yisrael first saw the great hand of Hashem. You didn't see a physical hand, but they saw Hashem's actions, what He did to the Egyptians, not only the 10 plagues, but how He split the ocean to 12, how He allowed them to pass freely, in a pleasurable way, fruits, vegetables coming out of the ground, flat ground, everything's a tunnel, the water that was salty 2 seconds ago is now pure for them to drink. Everything is amazing, magical. They see the heavens open, and everyone is saying, Zeh li ve'anveu, this is God, and I will sanctify Him. Even babies that were inside the stomachs were pointing at Shamayim, saying, Zeh li ve'anveu, this is God, and I will sanctify Him. Everyone is seeing this. This is God. And then they see the Egyptians. They were chasing them. Everybody's dead. Vayar Yisrael et hayad hagdolah. Am Yisrael finally got the point. It's not that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, natural disaster, happenstance, possibly bad winter, bad summer. No, it's Hashem's hand specifically dictating what's going to be in the world. Specifically monitoring who's going to survive. Specifically doing certain things and playing with this world like Play-Doh. They see He is the Yad HaGdolah. He is the great hand that destroyed Egypt. Not a wind, not a tsunami, not a happenstance of any kind, but it's His hand. And immediately it says, Vayiru ha'am. Immediately all got scared. They weren't scared in Egypt. They weren't scared when the plagues were happening. They weren't scared when they were crossing the ocean. When they get scared? After they saw what HaKadosh Baruch Hu did to the Egyptians. Because then and only then did they realize this could only be something from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It cannot be from anybody else. This could only be from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now you could ask 1.5 million questions. How could they not know from before, from this, from that? Well, in reality, you're asking the questions about yourself. How could you not know from this, from that, from that? Because you all lived at that time. You were them. We were them. And we messed up, and that's why we're here still today. But that's a topic for a different day. The point being is that Am Yisrael finally saw the hand that runs the world, the hand that brought Corona, the hand that brought financial crisis, the hand that brought all types of crises that we all have individually and as a nation. They saw the hand and immediately they got scared. And only after they got scared of Hashem and they revered Him, does it say, V'yaminu ba'Adonai u'b'Moshe avdo. Then they believed in Hashem, they had emunah in Hashem, and in Moses a servant. Only once they had fear in Hashem did they have emunah in Hashem. And only once they had emunah in Hashem were they willing to listen to the rabbis, like Moshe Rabbeinu and his followers. Because without Yirat Shamayim, Rabotai Yekarim, you do not believe in God. That's the key. That's the key lesson that we learn here. Many times people say, I believe in God, I'm just not religious. No, Habibi, you don't believe in God. You believe in an idol. Why? Because if you believe in a God where that God allows you to do whatever you want, That's not the God of Israel. That's a God that you made up. If you believe in a God that allows you to walk around immodestly and be promiscuous and do whatever you want in business and cheat and gamble and lie and do whatever you want, that's not the God of Israel. You, my friend, are an idol worshiper. That's the truth. Why? Because when Am Yisrael saw the Yad HaGdolah, saw the hand of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, immediately they got scared. And what does it mean they got scared? They got scared. They accepted anything and everything that he wants. Why? We have emunah that he is the one that's running the world. Tell us, Rabbi, what do you want us to do? What did he say for us to do? Na'aseh v'nishma. We will do and then we'll listen. This is why, Rabotai Yikarim, this is why right after Am Yisrael crossed the ocean, saw the Egyptians get completely annihilated, they acquired fear of the Almighty. They acquired emunah in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They were willing and happy to follow Moshe Rabbeinu in his words. This is why they started singing where it says, Az Yashir Moshe. Oh, then Moshe Rabbeinu started singing with them. And everyone said and pointed to the sky, Ze li ve'anveu. This is my God and I will sanctify him. How will you sanctify him if you don't have emunah? How will you sanctify him if you don't have Yirat Shamayim? How will you sanctify him if you don't keep Shabbat? How will you sanctify him if you continue to waste seed and be immodest and immoral and so on? Obviously, you cannot sanctify him that way. In order to sanctify him, you have to, first and foremost, have to have Yirat Shamayim. This, Rabotai Yikarim, is the ultimate lesson that a person needs to know completely in order to acquire Torah. Because without this, Rabotai, they don't believe in the God of Israel. They believe in their own made-up God. And unfortunately, sometimes people will mention a verse in the prophets, in the writings, and misunderstand it by Habakkuk. Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse number 4, says, Tzaddik be'emunato yichyeh. Tzaddik, a righteous person, will live with his emunah, and many clueless people mistranslate this pasuk or even say ish be'emunato yichyeh, that a person will live with his own emunah. You live with your emunah, I live with one emunah, but it doesn't say ish be'emunato. It says tzaddik be'emunato. A righteous person will live with his emunah. Chachamim say, what is this emunah? This emunah is referring to Yirat Shamayim. Why? He will live because of his emunah. What is this emunah? The oxygen of the world called Yirat Shamayim. That's what it is. That emunah that Habakkuk is referring to is Yirat Shamayim, is fear of the Almighty.